What's going on, Patriots post-game show? John Zannis, Greg Bedard from Foxboro, where the Patriots dismantle the Browns 32-13, a game that didn't always look like it was going to end this way, but eventually the Patriots offense got rolling. The Browns offense did what the Browns offense does, which is stink. And the Patriots defense held up, kind of kept them off the board here. And they roll 32-13, fifth straight win. We'll start, Greg. We start every show with Drake Maye, but it is interesting how this one played out. And you wrote about this during the week at Boston Sports Journal. And sorry, before we do start, quick shout out to our sponsors over at Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. #1 daily fantasy sports app in all of North America. Use the code CLNS. You see it here on the screen. 50 in your lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Check it out today. We also want to tell you guys about Omaha Steaks. Use code Patriots at checkout if you want some nice, juicy steaks delivered to you now or in time for Christmas. You get $35 off, including a 50% off site-wide sale going on right now at Omaha Steaks, so go check that out. So back to the game, Greg. You said it, like they just got to be smart and manage it. It's going to be the toughest test they have. It's a real Browns defense. They're going to have problems. They're never going to want to see Myles Garrett ever again after what he did. Offensive line struggled. The receivers couldn't really get open. Drake turned it over first time he'd done that in a few weeks. And they kind of put themselves in a position where this could have gone a couple of different ways if the Browns had a little more potent offense. Thankfully, they didn't. So the Patriots were able to hang in there, end up taking a halftime lead, and then they just took off from there. But describe at least what you saw in the first half with what was going on with that offense and the Patriots really kind of, again, struggling to protect Maye. Maybe he was holding it on too long. How did you see that all playing out with all of the difficulties that they had?
Yeah, I mean, largely it went about how I expected. The turnovers in the second half, especially Spillane's interception, and then the Patriots scoring 3 plays after that, really changed the game and got the game on their terms. You knew that once the Patriots got up 2 scores, the Browns were in a lot of trouble because Dylan Gabriel was not going to be able to, without the aid of a real run game, and we know how the Patriots shut down the run game, he wasn't going to be able to drive the team down the field like he did on the opening drive. But I thought the first half was just kind of it's exactly what I wrote about like Maye. We weren't really sure how he was going to react to it. This game was going to be imperfect, and at times it was going to be a slog. At times you're going to have to go 3 runs or 2 runs and an incompletion and punt the ball away and just have to deal with that and deal with pressure from Myles Garrett and just, keep on going and just have the discipline to understand that's what kind of game you're in, that it's probably going to be low scoring for a while. You just don't want to make the big mistake. It looked like maybe Maye did have the big mistake with the interception to Schlesinger. But the defense held. They missed the field goal. That was a big chance for the Browns to get up by a score. They blew it. I thought Drake Maye did really well. Like he easily could have gotten flustered, sped up with the pressure that was going on. Myles Garrett is just, he's not of the human race. He's something completely different. The Patriots tried a bunch of different things, to slow him down. Will Campbell, tried, but Myles Garrett is going to do Myles Garrett things. And that Drake Maye kept his head about him. I thought, his best sequence was the 26-yard run, and then he throws the touchdown to Booty on the next play with great patience in the pocket, great touch, just a perfect ball to Booty, that he was able to stay level-headed through all of that, I think was a big check mark for him to this point.
Yeah, and I think that was great for Maye, and I do think in terms of analyzing quarterback play, he was struggling a little bit early. And again, you have people kind of like, well, that's what happens when you face a real team. And again, that was exactly it. Sometimes it's just going to play hard. Like it's not always going to be just, just find everybody open, and march your way down the field on every drive. But you and I talked about it off air. The thing that really opened it up, I thought, was that drive where they got creative. Okay. So things
Yeah.
weren't working out, and McDaniels really got in his bag. The sequence that included a double pass to Hollins, where Maye again had to stand in there and take a big hit. That play wasn't great, but it was completed. Then you have a little kind of mini option to Stevenson to loosen things up a little bit there. Then you run the jet sweep to DeMario, and then you fake the jet sweep to Diggs, and he rolls out, gets out on a boot, finds Hunter Henry, and bing, 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 4 really schemed up plays there. And, they're off and running after that. So that was nice by McDaniels to kind of figure out, like, we got to kind of do something a little bit different than what we've been doing by just kind of standing in the pocket and dealing with this onslaught.
Yeah, and I'm sure, some of the questions are going to be like, well, and even some of the perimeter runs, the tosses to Treveyon Henderson, that we saw, people are going to be like, well, why don't we do that all the time? I mean, you can't do that all the time, or else they start keying on that.
Right.
You have to keep them balanced. You have to mix in the interior stuff that really wasn't working very well, with the outside. And then, you also want to keep some of the stuff into your back pocket until you really need it, and them grabbing the lead right before halftime and then coming out on the first drive of the second half and Josh saying, like, all right, it's time to pull some of this stuff out. This is the right time. Really allowed them to get going, a lot of wide open stuff, a little end around the throw to Hunter Henry. He was wide open. That's a play caller type sort of drive right there from Josh McDaniels. So to give the team a little bit more breathing room, relax everybody, and, for Drake Maye to throw 3 touchdown passes in the third quarter, that's just great stuff.
Yeah, and it almost feels like an old Patriots sort of win, right? Which is like, letting them hang around, playing with your food doesn't quite work, and then bing, bang, bang, the floodgates open, and that was that. It really was basically the third quarter where things just opened up, and they completely put them away. You mentioned Henderson. Everyone's been dying to see him get going. It's surprising, and again, this is still the early unofficial snap count from PFF. Only 14 snaps. Is that right? Based on one looking at it, felt like he was on the field more. He just basically got the ball almost every time he was out there, and they were trying to get it in his hands on a lot of those toss sweeps and different things. But again, I will say in that regard, I'm not going to say it's about time, but it does make a lot more sense with someone with his skill set to try to get him in space a little bit more. And to his credit, he ran better. He was more patient. There were a couple of times where he did start to the outside, and you saw him actually wait for blocks to develop as opposed to just running right up into somebody's backside. So I thought overall a better job by him today, even though they did scheme it up a little bit differently for him, and they did make a concerted effort to get him involved.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, we've been talking about it for a few weeks. I thought it might have happened last week. It didn't. But I figured it was coming with Henderson. The game slows down for a lot of these kids at different points. And, it's starting to, I would say this was a mini breakout game for Henderson. And, it's sure, you'd love to run on the perimeter, but you're also worried about those are the plays that have the best chance to go for negative plays.
Negative yards,
and
right.
I think, yeah. And I think that, where they are as an offense, they really aren't interested in that. They want to, keep the negative plays to a minimum. And, some of the perimeter blocking that they have, with some, Diggs and Douglas aren't exactly known for their blocking, even though they've done it at times this year. The tight ends haven't been great blocking. And also the biggest thing is the second level. I think on Treveyon Henderson's biggest run, I forget what it was, like 18, 19 yards, which was sort of like a toss to the outside. I mean, you had Morgan Moses out there with a block. You had Micah Wenu. I think you even had Jared Wilson. There were guys, executing on the second level, which we haven't seen, which I would say is the biggest reason why Henderson has, struggled to pop any big ones. A lot of the smaller ones, instead of getting 5 or 7 yards, he's been getting 2 or 3 because he's running into the back. The backs of guys. He's not being patient. And I think today was a big step forward from him. And they're going to need that. They need his speed as a threat. And, once they really get that going, I think it really opens up a lot more things in this offense.
When we talked about the offense in the first half, what do you think was giving them the most problems there? Was it that the receivers were just not getting open and Maye just couldn't get it out quickly, or it was just the pressure kind of freaked him out?
Yeah, I thought the coverage from the Browns, was pretty good. I would say most of it was the pressure. I mean, I think the Browns did a pretty good job of sort of collapsing the pocket, and they're really athletic, at linebacker and safety, and so that presents, coverage issues. But it's a damn good defense, and you're going to have drives like that. You just have to have the patience and discipline to keep going, stick with your plan. And, some things might pop. I mean, they were lucky. I'm sure when we look back, some of the busts that they were able to get the Browns on, there was a play to Hooper. I think there was one to Stevenson. I'm sure those things were set up earlier with a certain look that they gave the Browns. So sometimes you got to sprinkle those in early and they pay off a little bit later. But you just have to have the patience. I did think one nitpick of McDaniels I had was looking back at it at halftime. Their pass run had gotten out of balance. I think they were like 65% pass in the first half in a pretty tight game. And that's probably not where they wanted to be. And I thought they hit the ground running, no pun intended, a little bit more in the second half to sort of even those things out and keep the Browns a little bit more balanced.
Talking about the pressure that rattled them in the first half again, Myles Garrett, otherworldly, as you tweeted and you said here, he's not a human being. So you're not going to get mad necessarily at what went on, but it looked, in addition to it being, and again, you have a better eye for this. So in addition to him just being a physically dominant, individual that's difficult to deal with, I felt like the Patriots were almost confusing themselves every time that they tried to double or chip him. Like sometimes just somebody was, Campbell would look in the wrong direction. He'd get chipped and he'd turn to get somebody who was coming on the inside. It looked like they were struggling to figure it out, in addition to just being overpowered sometimes, or just, Campbell just getting beaten to the outside, even though, somebody chipped Garrett to start the play. It felt like the help wasn't helping.
Yeah, you get that a lot. And, there are definitely veteran left tackles that will tell you, I don't want help. I don't want to chip. It messes me up more than anything. I mean, it takes a lot of teamwork and a lot of time to be able to properly execute that. And these guys, I mean, Will Campbell's a rookie, so they don't have that. But I mean, everything has to be on the same page, guys aligning the right way, and of course you have a superhuman like Myles Garrett, who's not exactly going to do anything as you planned it. But you can't do nothing, because there's no chance if they left Will Campbell out there on an island with Myles Garrett, he would have got his lunch taken from him. And, that did happen at times today, but I'm sure Will be better for it. And, you try to do certain different things, it's a running back chip one time, it's a tight end chip, then you're pulling somebody and helping, like you're just trying to change the different looks. And that's not always going to look pretty, but it's what's required. And hopefully this type of thing and watching the film and how they executed this will pay off, later down the line when they're dealing with some other really good edge rushers.
Yeah, and again, take it for what it's worth. Everybody's going to look at it and analyze things differently. And, you have a lot of people who say take PFF grades and throw them in the trash. But amazingly, Will Campbell's PFF grade for this game is actually decent. So especially on the pass block side, he's the third highest graded player on the offense. First it's Hollins, second it's Maye, and third it's Will Campbell. And that doesn't really feel like it passes the eye test from what happened today.
Yeah, I mean, those PFF grades, it's hard to tell, like, what do they do when a guy gets help? I mean, does that count as like a great rep for Will Campbell? That's why I keep my own stats, and we'll see the way that it comes out. But I thought he did a pretty good job for the most part. I also noticed him a little bit more in the run game today. So, that was really good. And the thing is with this Browns front, it's not just Myles Garrett. Mack Hollins is a beast as well on the interior, and I'll be interested to see how they handled him as well.
Yeah. So a little nugget that came out post game, I think it's worth talking about because we didn't notice it until he made a big play in the second quarter. But Christian Barmore apparently did some sort of no-no, and Mike Vrabel indicated in the post-game press conference that he was essentially benched for the first quarter for disciplinary reasons, or the quote was something along the lines of not commensurate with what we're, trying to, get done. And he said, he had to do something like this to protect his team. We're not going to speculate what it is, but that obviously isn't great. Good that he got himself back in there, but definitely a little bit of a development to keep an eye on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think with just a quarter sitting on the bench, I don't think it could have been, all that serious. If it was, I think they would have deactivated him and probably sent him home. So hopefully it was just being something minor, even though Vrabel doesn't have all that many rules. And even if, one of them is be on time, and he has said to the team, like, even if you can't be on time, as long as you let somebody know, like, they'll probably let it go. It's not exactly like, Bill Belichick's reign around here, with Snowgate,
the Jetsons,
what have you. Yeah. But it's never good. I mean, it's a little bit disappointing because Christian is an important player. He's been playing terrific. I thought even when he got out there today, last I looked on PFF, they had him for a team leading 4 pressures, and that's only in 3 quarters, probably really only 2 quarters, considering the blowout nature in the fourth quarter. But he's been, basically playing like flawless over the last, I want to say, like 4 games, maybe 5, including today. So hopefully he, learns a lesson in his 5 from here, because he is a very important guy up front for the Patriots. And I mean, we should mention the defense. Again, this wasn't the greatest test in the world. I thought the Browns would be lucky to get a touchdown today. They ended up getting 2, 1 in garbage time. But they gave up 70 yards, I think, on the first possession, 7 plays, 70 yards, 10 yards a clip. And then the next 7 possessions, they gave up 58 yards total. So, good job by them. And, but once the game got to 2 scores, that's pretty much game over and advantage Patriots, because there's no way Dylan Gabriel is going to be able to make plays. The Browns were terrible on 3rd down. You get the Browns into 3rd and long, it's pretty much over, because Dylan Gabriel at this point is not a real NFL quarterback, and the Patriots made him look like one today.
Yeah, things are going to get noisy in Cleveland. They're heading into their bye. Gabriel was given a seal of approval, at least, that he'll be starting when they get out of the bye, but that drum beat's going to get louder and things are going to get funky there. Quick round the horn with the Patriots receivers. And again, Greg, you've always been on the they've got enough weapons to be able to be okay. And as it goes on, you're starting to kind of, it again feels very much like a vintage Patriots team of just throw to the open guy. And you've now got contributions from everybody. And I'm starting with the guy that I liked the least, I guess. I didn't really understand what his point was with Mack Hollins. He's been reliable lately. It's almost like you forget he exists, and all of a sudden he makes 1 big play, 2 big plays, multiple big plays here. 7 receptions, 89 yards today. And we know that he does. He contributes to the run game as well. Not bad for a guy. A lot of people are clamoring for hit the bricks. I want to see Kyle Williams instead.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, Mack's a really good player. He certainly got off to a slow start in this system, and you're not the only one who's sort of questioning, all right, what are we doing? I was, beginning to think, like, is this like little Jordan Humphreys all over again? Like, the guy's just out there to block. How about the pass game? But they're getting him involved more. I think, the thing with Mack Hollins is having him on the field and the threat of him blocking. You do that a couple times, and then all of a sudden, you fake the block, and then he pops a pass, and you get an open guy. And, he's very valuable. He's very clutch. Wait till you see him, at the end of games when they're in some tighter games. He's a guy that you can really rely on. He did that for the Bills, last year as well. But, Mack Hollins is a good player.
Yeah, and then Booty keeps doing it there. And again, the touchdown wasn't just a beautiful ball by Maye. It was great. Absolutely drops it in the bucket. But nice little double move there to create separation. He's just been nice. Is he like, do you feel like this is, again, we're not talking about what they have this year. Is this one of the positions you're like, they're okay here with this guy. Like he can play for me, or you're still looking for major upgrades all across the board at all the receiver positions down the road next year, or even immediately trade deadline. Are you still looking for more, or are you starting to feel like, I think Booty can be, at least a number 2 receiver on this team?
Yeah, I'm not really looking at receiver. I'm not concerned about that. I'm more worried about the defense and their ability to get stops against real NFL offenses, which we, haven't seen in a few weeks. I don't even know if we're going to see one next week, considering what happened to the Falcons today with Kirk Cousins at quarterback.
Wow.
I mean, I just saw the score. I mean, I don't even know what happened there, and especially I can't wait to watch the Falcons film, which is the next challenge, because I was ready to say, yeah, the Browns defense is good. The Falcons defense is better. At least they are statistically. I don't know what happened today. Apparently, Tua looked like vintage Joe Montana or something today. But, I'm mostly worried about the defense. That they didn't get a ton out of the edge today. Chason and Harold Landry, they were a little bit invisible from what I could tell. I sort of checked out in the fourth quarter and started writing. So, I think they're getting a little thin there. Keon White was inactive today, a healthy scratch. He's been completely MIA, just not with the program on the field this year. So, if Landry or Chason gets hurt, we saw this a few weeks ago when Chason was out. They didn't really have much, and Landry's a smaller guy who could wear down. So, I think it reinforcements at edge, linebacker, possibly cornerbacks to cover yourself when Carlton Davis has his usual month off for an injury. Those are the bigger concerns for me. As far as long-term, I think you just got to remember, Stephon Diggs isn't going to be here for the long term. So, what's it look like after that? I think, really you're just going to have to start drafting and developing guys. And if you don't get a contribution year one, sort of like Kyle Williams right now, if they step in at some point, that's sort of the plan for upgrading, I would say, the wide receivers. And also tight end. You're going to need a couple new tight ends very soon.
You're going to need a lot of stuff, but defensively, as you said, possible upgrades here at the places that you need some help. And we knew coming in, edge and linebacker was going to be not great. And I know you just took a shot at Carlton Davis here, but it's hard not to feel pretty good about the defensive backfield, the way that they're playing. Gonzalez was on lockdown again today. And
against who?
Against nobody real, but it was still fun to
Jerry
see him
Jeudy, and
it was fun to see
the
him
guy
shut
who
it
was
down.
suspended, the rookie who didn't turn around in time to catch a ball today.
It's fun to see him yapping at Jerry Jeudy, but sure, I mean, he's been pretty solid, and I think continues to trend up. Marcus Jones continues to be really good here.
Awesome.
Yeah, all in all, again, there's a lot of pieces working. Spillane, after the first couple of weeks when he was having tackling issues, is all over the place and making a lot of plays. So there's more going on with this defense. And again, it's difficult to judge because you're just not playing good offenses here. But what's your level of confidence / concern with the way that the defense is playing currently after 7 weeks, after 8 weeks?
Like you said, it's hard to tell. I mean, Cam Ward looked like a Pro Bowler for a half. Dylan Gabriel looked like a Pro Bowler for a drive, and then looked like himself after that. It's tough to tell. I think, I do think that the Falcons are going to be challenging for them, especially if Penix comes back. They got a lot of talent on that defense, and it'll be interesting to see how they cover. Of course, they have Bijan Robinson. So that's a really good test. They'll get the Bills again, where the Bills won't be napping on the Patriots this time. If they were the first time, they'll be ready for it. So, we'll see. They have some tests coming up, but, they're doing their job so far, just not a whole lot to go off of in terms of the challenges presented by the other team.
Yep. Any other takeaways we're missing from this game, Greg?
Oh, special teams outside of Borregales absolutely stunk. Behringer bombs a 61-yard touchback. I mean, he didn't even land it in green. It landed in the end zone. What are we doing? Then he shanks a 15-yard punt that ends up costing them a touchdown. And then they didn't recover an onside kick because Austin Hooper got a little bit alligator arms. So, and they had 3 special teams penalties today. So outside of Borregales, who was great, what do you have? 3 for 3 on field goals or something like that. Great. Outside of that, special teams, stinky.
Stinky. We didn't gush about Drake Maye enough. Is there anything particular today that you liked most about what he did turning it around in the third quarter?
We
We almost glossed over
about
it.
Drake Maye enough.
We didn't, because we just kind of gloss over it. He ends up with a 135 passer rating, 3 TDs, 280 yards. Statistically ends up being a good game, but it felt icky because they struggled in the first half. And so what are we missing here? I feel like we didn't talk about it enough.
I thought we talked about it plenty. We talked about how, he, sort of what I wrote today, what I wanted to see was Drake
8 of
Maye
8
being
in the
mature,
second half.
Yeah. He had a perfect passer rating in the third quarter. It was great. One of the scoring drives was set up by the Spillane interception. Some of it was, Josh McDaniels scheming stuff wide open, but Drake was great. I mean, like I said, the most impressive thing to me about Drake Maye today is that he gets dropped 6 times. Myles Garrett. Now, I didn't like him trying to stiff arm Myles Garrett, and not throwing the ball away, and then whatever that slide was after his 28-yard gain, which he said even the guys on the sideline were making fun of him about. So it wasn't perfect, but you couldn't tell. Like, there's a lot of quarterbacks. If Drake Maye, if Myles Garrett is in his ear hole every other play and dropping him, a lot of guys would get sped up. They would get flustered.
That's what I'm talking about.
He stayed even. Yeah, and I said that earlier.
Yeah. That's because that's what I'm trying to assess in my mind is like, are we glossing over it because we're used to seeing it now, glossing over it? Or was it super impressive because it was the first time you had something like that happening, which is you got somebody in his face messing with him, throwing off his rhythm, and it didn't go to pieces, I guess, which is the best thing that you can say about it, for this game. So, yeah, it just feels like it was, it's another 283 touchdown sort of game for Drake Maye. We do want to say before Greg goes that you should subscribe to Boston Sports Journal. If I can find it, there it is. Subscribe to both the Greg Bedard Patriots podcast and to Boston Sports Journal. $7 a month for Boston Sports Journal for the best sports coverage in town. You can get football coverage from both Greg Bedard and Mike Giardi, who also has a podcast, All 32, here on the CLNS Media Network. So make sure that you check that out and make sure you read everything that they have to say about today's game after they are done. We're going to say goodbye to Greg. Greg, thanks a lot for joining.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
See you, bud. So that's it for Greg. We're going to bring in Mike Kadlick and Taylor Kyles in just a little bit. But first off, we have to once again tell you about our pals over at Prize Picks, and you know everything about it by now. All you have to do is pick more, pick less. It's that easy. It's there on your screen. The #1 daily fantasy sports app in all of North America. Lots of great deals that you can have throughout, which is, free squares, lots of promotions, in addition to the one where you can see it on the screen. You download the app, use that code CLNS, get 50 in your lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Once again, code CLNS, get 50 in your lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. As we said with Prize Picks, lots of cool opportunities here to win cash up to 2,000 times your cash, 2 to 6 players. Got to be on different teams, can be different sports, doesn't really matter. We also offer injury reboots. Somebody gets hurt, they don't come back. One of your players leaves in the first half. It happened today. Cam Scadaboo, prayers up. Prize Picks is going to remove that. It's off the board. Also, you have a flex play. You can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. Lots of good options there. So once again, download that app, use code CLNS, get 50 in your lineups when you play your first $5 lineups. Check it out today. We're going to come back full here on the screen, and we're waiting for Taylor and Mike to get set up. We did want to mention here, and I don't have it in front of me right now, but I should get it in a little bit. The Christian Barmore situation was definitely interesting here, and I'm trying to dig up the exact quote if I can find it. Oh, I think I have it here. Give me 1 second, guys. I actually think I've got Vrabel on it. If you just give me 2 seconds, and I'll load it up, and we will hear from Mike Vrabel. Christian Barmore, we didn't really notice it, but he ended up not playing in the first quarter. Somewhere in the second quarter, he got in there after he made a play, and it was, where's he been? And people started to wonder, well, typically you don't just sit a quarter unless there's some sort of disciplinary issue. Turns out that was the case. There was something going on. Here's Mike Vrabel talking about it.
I had to make a decision. My job is to protect the team. So when there's actions that I don't feel like are commensurate with what we want to do here, I got to make a decision and we move on.
It was that simple. It's also this simple. We've got Mike Kadlick and Taylor Kyles standing by.
Hey,
we're going to talk to them a little bit, guys. We're starting on the Barmore because we just heard the sound, but that was a bit of a surprise that happened. I don't know what it was, and again, Mike Vrabel's rules. It could have been as simple as being late to a meeting or a practice. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's a repeat offender situation. We don't know. Greg was talking about it earlier. If it was something really bad, he'd probably miss the whole game. Just a quarter feels like you broke one of my rules and I've got to do this. Sorry, it is what it is.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate when it's one of your best players. I think you could argue that Christian Barmore might be their best player on defense, even though he doesn't have the stats. Like today, helping force the safety towards the end of the game. But yeah, I mean, at least we know that Mike Vrabel is absolutely holding players accountable. I feel like with the Ramondre Stevenson fumble thing, it's like, when is he actually gonna like nip this in the bud and address this? And he's explained that away. But now you have again one of your best defensive players, and you don't have him out there early on. So at least we know that Mike Vrabel is, he's handing out discipline when it's necessary.
It's funny, Taylor, because that's kind of where my head went. It's like it's good to see something like that. Because when Greg was on just a few minutes ago here, I heard you guys talking, and he was saying how it can be kind of loose with Mike Vrabel, where he's like, if you can't make a meeting, it's okay. Just let me know. We'll figure it out. He didn't discipline Stevenson. There hasn't been really any bubble ups here. Stephon Diggs, there was a couple things, obviously the offseason, the summer, what have you, that we thought of, and there was no real discipline. So I guess it's good to see that, if you really do cross whatever line was crossed, something's going to happen. I think the best part is, though, Taylor, kind of like you mentioned, he was disciplined. He missed the quarter, but he comes back and he plays good football. He didn't sulk. He didn't sit on the bench. He could have, had a towel over his head. We could have knew that there was something worse going on, but there wasn't. They handled it internally. He ends up making a play, like Taylor said, to help kind of seal this game up. So it's, I guess, unfortunate, if you will, that he had to miss a quarter, but at the end of the day, it's no harm, no foul here. Patriots are 6-2.
Very good. So that, again, we were just talking about it. We figured we would. We're going to start where we always start, and we were starting with Greg a little bit on the Drake Maye stuff. Tough first half. Tough first half for him. Yeah. What did you see that the Browns were doing to him that kind of threw things off? And obviously pressure is going to mess up any offense. And there was a lot of it, and Myles Garrett did crazy Myles Garrett things. And thankfully, this is the only time you're going to have to see him this year. But, to his credit, as we, Greg and I had just discussed, he didn't come to pieces off of that, which I thought was the most impressive thing that happened. And again, I feel good because you need to see one of these, right? Like, okay, Everything is bad. How are you going to handle it now? Can you keep it together and can you pull it back? And he did. And again, I guess that's the difference you have, guys, with a quarterback that elevates things or can make big plays for you, is you hold the line long enough and eventually that stuff is going to come through. And that's what kind of happened. The dam finally broke in the third quarter and they just ran away with it. They flipped the script almost immediately on this game and it became a laugher. And I think you got to credit Drake Maye for keeping it together and not completely losing his cool. As you've seen, not only in a game that happened to some quarterbacks, you've seen some quarterbacks dealing with pressure that see ghosts for weeks after it. And Drake Maye just kind of hung in there and took his beating and just kept playing.
Yeah, I mean, it's thematic of this entire team, how resilient they are, how mentally tough they are, where, things won't start out their way, but then they very much lock in and you see a different version of them. The defense has been the shining example. But I mean, Drake, in that first series, I thought his accuracy was kind of shaky. There was a touchdown, I thought, on the board where he wound up actually throwing behind Ramondre Stevenson. Good read by him. He wanted to go to Stephon Diggs, didn't like the look, went backside. Give him a little bit of partial credit there. And that interception was the worst turnover I think he's had as a pro, where he just did not see Carson Schwarzenegger and threw it right to him. Like, that was really bad. And to your point, John, that's the kind of thing a young quarterback could spiral. Like a pick that bad and that kind of silly, you can get into your head. You can just kind of a lot of negative talk, and then it just turns into an avalanche effect. Instead, we saw Drake leading a very good drive at the end of the half. Obviously didn't go the way they wanted, but at least they got points on the board to kind of get the lead. Or I think that was 6-7 at that point. They hadn't gotten the lead. Oh my God, damn it. Oh my God. So, so 6-7, something like that.
They did take the lead on that end of half field goal. They took the lead after the throw to Booty down the middle of the field that ended up getting the fourth down. Yes,
right. Yeah, and then it was impressive for Drake, especially that third quarter. I kind of tweeted out like tick, tick, boom, because you get 3 points, 6 points, and then the 21-point explosion where you really saw him locking in the throw to Booty, the scramble before that. You had fans chanting MVP after the scramble, and Drake's like, no, hold up. Yeah. Boom, touchdown. All right, now let the MVP chance continue. So it's incredible to see. I think we were talking about it yesterday or a couple of days ago about how Drake, you very rarely, if ever, I think, see him really get rattled to the point where he falls apart. And this was just the latest example of very impressive performance. I have a feeling I'm going to go back in the tape and be a little more disappointed than I maybe am right now. But you blew these guys out, so there's not a whole lot I can nitpick right now.
I mean, the fact that he went 21-23 last week and there was still a ton of nitpicks, and I joked after the game when he went to the podium and was like, I left a lot out there. I was like, how can you leave a lot out there after that? But then when you go watch it, and we kind of did our whole review of it over the week, there was a lot that he could have improved on last week. Same with this afternoon out here, where he was a little bit shaky at first. Even on that throw to Booty on the end of the second half here, that was a little bit behind him, and Booty made a nice play and catch. Now, granted, you don't know whose fault it is. There could have been a miscommunication there, but he does catch the ball. They end up getting the field goal to take the lead. And then that third quarter where you pulled it up during the game, 6 for 6, 3 touchdowns in the third quarter, just money for money after money throw after money throw. So yes, I think it was the pressure, to answer the original question here, that kind of did throw him off and throw the entire offense off a little bit in the first half of this game, but they were able to dial in. They were able to get around it. And even though Myles Garrett did notch 5 sacks in this one, Drake Maye still had a good enough game to get them to 30 points to get them the win.
I'll also be curious to see if the Browns changed their approach in the second half, because the first half, the biggest problem in almost every sack you saw from Myles Garrett, he wasn't winning immediately. Like, he had chips, and then he was able to get past Will Campbell, but a big part of that was the Patriots not really separating against man coverage. That was kind of the early theme, I thought, for the game, and why Drake had to hold on to the ball and take some of those sacks. So in the second half, like the Booty touchdown, that was zone coverage where they're playing quarter. It was kind of like last week, and Booty just goes over the top against a guy playing off coverage against him. Eventually, I think they'll figure out, like, maybe we need to play this guy with a bit more urgency. But I did think the man coverage was the biggest thing they struggled with in that first half.
That's what I thought so too. I think he was looking and just saw nothing, and he's like, "Crap, I don't have anywhere to put this right now." And then, it was coming. He just couldn't. You couldn't get it out in under 3 seconds because there's nowhere to go with the ball there. And there was even one point in the game where there's a really well defended play, and the announcers were saying, this is indicative of what a defense might think of your players. It's they're pressing up on the line and just saying, go ahead, see if you can beat me, man on man, schoolyard style. And they didn't. What I thought really loosened this game up, and I talked about it with Greg, was they got a little tricky. They got a little funky. Josh McDaniels had that sequence where he really got in his bag. And I thought that was really the big difference there. And you got the double pass, which almost was a disaster, but Maye hung in there and, didn't get himself killed. A teeny little option to Stevenson to get him a few positive yards there. The jet sweep to DeMario, and then the fake jet sweep to Diggs ends up in a boot, and Hunter Henry's wide open there. That really got the Browns off balance there. And I thought that was good because they needed to do something a little bit to kind of loosen it up. And I thought that was great. That, and then throw in a bunch of toss sweeps for Henderson to try to get him to the outside.
They did a lot to get him going on the outside.
Which was great. We'll get into Henderson in a little bit, but I do think McDaniels gets credit there for kind of, that almost felt like the scripted series you're going to open games with. They did it there in the second half, and that kind of gave them that little bit of a cushion there, and they took off from there.
And I feel like if before that series, I probably would have had more criticisms for Josh McDaniels, because we all knew that the Browns were going to play a man coverage. So we expected just vintage Josh McDaniels man beaters. I always go back to that Cowboys game in like 2017 or something where the thing was open. It was super bright. Edelman had like the long touchdown where they were just dialing up pick plays consistently because they knew that the Cowboys were just going to man them up. So I was a little bit shaky on Josh in that first half. But like you said, that one series was absolutely nuts. You started seeing little wrinkles they hadn't shown before, like had a split back look where you kind of tossed it to Treveyon after he comes from behind. That was amazing. And give Treveyon Henderson a ton of credit. We got to speak to him after the game. he mentioned that he does feel like he's getting more comfortable, says that one of the goals was to get him the ball in space more often. And we clearly saw it work. There was one toss especially. It wasn't a huge game, but you saw him wait for his blocking to develop, got time for Jack Westover to help out Morgan Moses. I was like, yes, that's what I've been waiting on, just to show the patience. Like, hey, young man, you hit top speed very quickly. You don't have to go 100% and hit the accelerate button every time you get the ball as soon as it touches your hand. So I was really impressed by the increased patience and also the contact balance we saw from Treveyon, because even that, it feels like lately he's just gotten tackled and there's nothing after it. He's one of the worst backs in the league, I think, if you look at averages in terms of yards after contact. Looked like
he was dead last a week ago.
Huge. There you go. Yep, there you go.
No, that's
I don't know what it was after last week's game. I think heading into last week he was dead last, I remember, and that's not great.
The only one thing I have to add on Henderson, I know you said we'll get to him a little bit more later on, but that
let's get to him now. Let's do it now.
That's sort of one option speed that he had in the preseason, right? Like he breaks it for a touchdown on the kick return. He does it a couple times for rushing touchdowns in the preseason. Everyone's like, oh my God, where is this kid? Why can't he get it? Then you end up playing against NFL speed. And like you said, you have to be more patient. You have to be able to read your blocks, find your hole. And he was asked if he felt more comfortable today, and he kind of wanted to push back on it and didn't really kind of dive in, but you could tell he felt a lot more comfortable today. Like you said, slowing down, understanding what was happening in front of him, hitting the hole and hitting that top speed when he had to. And then he was also decent in the kick return game as well, which we were kind of surprised he was going to be back there. Not so much surprised, but just, are we going to get another running back hurt again, putting him out there too much, yada, yada. But he was solid in that aspect of the game as well. And continuing to hopefully sort of build on that and vie for more carries in this backfield.
Yeah, there was definitely a little bit of patience there too, where you did have a couple toss sweeps where he did like wait for a block or two to develop instead of running it right into somebody's backside, which is, I think, important for a back like him, because you're wait. That's the point, right? You wait, you see it, you hit it. A running back like him, and so that was definitely encouraging here, because it's that explosive element that you need, that you thought you were adding a home run threat to an offense that doesn't necessarily have one. We've yet to see anything from Kyle Williams, and I'm not going there because this isn't the Kyle Williams show, but for the love of God, I want to see him catch a single pass. I just want one. That's it. And I'll shut up. I'll give you 2 weeks off.
I can't
put him out there.
I get
throw
it, right?
one ball. Just throw him one ball.
Just Drake's got to give him a catchable ball also, to be fair.
I know, but there is that angle where it's like,
give me one.
He was the rookie. They haven't had this rookie wide receiver come in and have any impact on this offense at God knows how long. But at the end of the day, when the wide receiver core is as good as they're playing right now, and they're able to kind of be a solid unit that they haven't been in years prior, it's easier to just kind of forget about that guy and be like, okay, we'll figure you out next year. We'll go that route later on, because they don't really need Kyle Williams right now. Would he help? Potentially, but it's not like we're sitting here saying we can't get anybody the ball and Kyle Williams on the bench. Why is this happening? Like, he's kind of just shoehorned out of the room right now. And to that point, like, the offense has been so good. Stephon Diggs just caught his first touchdown as a Patriot. Drake was saying they were teasing him because Caleb Chason came into this game with more touchdowns than Stephon Diggs. So he just caught his first touchdown. Mack Hollins just had his best day as a Patriot. I think he ended the day with about 80 yards or something like that on seven catches, 89 yards.
There you go. 89. So you got guys that are on the field all the time that still aren't getting a lot of targets. You talk about, I feel like every week Mack Hollins is open for like a 30, 40-yard gain, and he doesn't even get the ball. So I understand. We all want to see Kyle Williams, the speed. I feel like also every week I end up going to Kyle Williams. Like me and Brian, one of us alternates and goes up to be like, hey, man, this is the week, because you see on tape, it's like, oh, man, he was beating somebody deep. But it just goes to show how well this receiver room and this offense overall is playing, that you have so many different guys who can make an impact. And sometimes it's a joke when you have that conversation of, hey, if you don't have any number ones, and it's like, oh, who does the defense target? And it's just like, no, sometimes it helps when you just do have one guy who's very, very good. But this is the true kind of summary of that idea, where could be Diggs, could be Booty. You literally don't know from play to play. I can't imagine if you're a fantasy player with any of these guys, but you see each guy popping off and making a difference in his own way. So that's been very cool. But I'm with you. I'd like to see Kyle Williams finally get a catch.
No, the best Patriots teams are the teams
when they're playing.
Yeah. The best Patriots teams are the teams where you don't have any of their players in your fantasy starting lineup, because it's democratic. It's throw to the open guy. It's not one guy. It's not one thing. And again, that's what the great quarterbacks do, and that's what kind of Drake Maye is doing. I know oftentimes quarterbacks get like their offensive lineman gifts at the end of the year. Every receiver here has to get Drake Maye a gift for either saving their career or giving them a semblance of one. Because again, He's kind of doing everything, with and for these guys. But hats off. If this were the Garden Report, people would be clamoring for a Mack Hollins apology cam, which I don't do apology cams, but I will say that Mack Hollins.
Rumor has it we might have some Patriots hard hats coming.
We might. Oh, Jimmy's
Shout
got
out
to
Jimmy
you,
T.
huh? Jimmy
Yeah,
got to you.
he got to us.
The Mac. Oh my God, Bailey. Is it on or off? Mack Hollins. There it is.
Oh, there we go. Come on, B.
He and I were fighting on that one. We were going back and forth. I was sabotaging him every time he tried to do the right thing and put it up. Again, it's like I spent most of the preseason in the first 3 or 4 games of this year. Like, what does this guy do? What is he doing here? He's doing stuff.
Sure.
He's doing it. I'm sorry, he is. And then,
Oh yeah, I wasn't sure. I mean, you want more? I mean, I gave him all the love. I don't know how much I was like.
He's doing it.
He's doing it. He's here. He's proving to be that sort of reliable, if you will, X-type receiver that they need. And you mentioned that there's always these plays on film that he's out there, they're just not hitting them.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that was a topic of discussion this week in the room where it's like, okay, this is here. Let's focus on not necessarily build the game plan on getting Mack Hollins the football, but on these type of plays. Look to 13 because he's freaking wide open.
Yeah.
Get him the ball, and it was out there today, and it's good to see because, again, you mentioned it is democratic. It's if a guy's Drake Maye said it best all season long. I'm going to throw you the football if you're open.
Yep.
And I feel like that was the Mack Hollins thing today where, shit, he's open. I'm just going to get him the football, get 5 yards, get 10 yards, however many it is, and then keep the chains moving.
Especially, I think a lot of that production was off specifically play action.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with him. He can sneak and get open because he does so much dirty work. He acts as basically an extra tight end. He works near the formation so often that when you see him in those looks, you're like, okay, a run probably is coming. And that's why for weeks we've seen him wide open. And you saw it on the double pass. Oh, I think he had like 50 yards just on play action alone. So showing the value there of you may not respect some of these guys as, receiving threats, but they can still do damage.
Yeah. And again, Booty, it's more than just being the beneficiary of terrific Drake Maye throws. He made a really good move to get open on that touchdown, a nice little kind of stop and go.
He had a nice route on that back.
The squirrel route.
Yes,
really nice
he
route.
put a triple move on Denzel Ward and got him on the ground.
Beautiful on the sideline. That was a
that's the
great
thing.
route for him.
And it's funny, I was going to kind of push back a little bit, but then we kept moving. And when you said that these guys should get Drake Maye something because they're just the beneficiaries of Drake Maye, like I get Drake Maye is playing MVP football, which I'm sure we'll get to Drake Maye in a little while here because we got to start, boosting up the CLNS budget so I can get to playoff games because it feels inevitable at this point. We're going to be going to LA and covering a Patriots game. But at any rate, the Kayshon Boutte, I feel like, has been just as much a part of his growth as Drake Maye has. Like he, as we know, he's said it himself. He's matured. He's gotten better. He's honed his craft in, and he looks like a 1A to a 2A football or wide receiver in a room right now. Like he has been unbelievable, and it continues to show, especially tonight where, Drake Maye hits him down the sideline. He beats him, and he has 1-2 steps on him. Drake puts it right in the bucket, and Kayshon comes down with a catch. So he has been terrific, and I do give him as much credit as Drake for his development.
Yeah, it's impossible to talk about how well Drake Maye is playing and not acknowledge the fact that, the receivers are making some crazy catches. Like last week where Drake acknowledged this time he thought he overthrew Kayshon again. Kayshon, I think it was a mic'd up or something, mentioned that he was tracking the ball last week. He was going to put his hands up to get it and realized it was still going. It was like, I got to make an adjustment. Austin Hooper, obviously, last week, mossing a guy. Like Drake's been very good, but he's not always perfect. And the receivers have really done their part to make this offense as productive as it's been. Obviously, the offensive line as well. So as much credit as we give Drake Maye, when you're being this productive and this efficient as an offense, it's never just one guy. The receivers, man. We kind of talked about it towards the end of the summer. I think I tweeted maybe one of the last weeks of training camp, like, this room is actually playing very well. Like they're catching everything. There's not a lot of days where you're like, ugh, but like they were kind of burning the secondary in the summer, and it's cool to see it finally translate after obviously the past few years of struggle in that position.
Yeah, go get Olave. That's all I have to say. But yeah, I'm it's fine. I'm still, you have to feel pretty good about it again because, I think a lot of it, because of Drake Maye, of course. But
I was just going to say too, a lot of it obviously has to do with the quarterback.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I mean, this is a good room. It's not a great room, but I think Drake Maye's play has made them a close to great room so far this year. They've done enough to get by. They continue to score 30 points week in and week out and win football games.
All right, a little bit more on Drake Maye coming up in just a little bit. We do want to tell you guys about another great deal that you could take advantage of here at CLNS. And Patriots Daily postgame show, and that is a chance to get in on some Omaha steaks.
Oh yeah, baby.
If that's your bag, check it out.
Oh.
Oh man, when we put that video up, guys, I get excited.
Me
But
too.
again, Omaha Steaks, a great deal going on the site, and a great deal when you use the promo code that you see that I put up on the screen earlier. You just have to basically, it's easy, guys. You're Patriots fans, right? Go to omahasteaks.com, take advantage of that 50% site-wide sale right now, and get yourself a box of juicy steaks, combo meals, platters, desserts. You got it. Burgers, chickens, doesn't matter. Code Patriots. It's on the screen. It's that simple. And again, 50% off site-wide sale plus that code. Again, do the math on it. $200 box of steaks down to $100 minus 35. That's $65 for $200 worth of product. It's a pretty good deal. You can get it delivered right to your door within 24 hours, or you can push it and get that stuff coming out for the holidays if you want. That's what I did too. Ordered myself a nice little roast. That should be terrific. So check it out once again. Use that code Patriots. Help us, support us by supporting our sponsors. We really do appreciate it. If this is something you're even remotely interested in and you are going to do it, or get it for a gift, again, you can send this stuff to people around the holidays. It's a terrific gift. It's pretty easy. Someone's going to be like, holy crap. You know, Mike,
look at the meats.
Mike, they got me $200 worth of steak.
Yeah.
I only paid $65. Nobody has to know that. Just get it done. Code Patriots at checkout, $35 off at omahasteaks.com. Terms do apply. So, guys, we're through 8 games now. And what's kind of interesting is a lot of people, yourselves included, talked about this being kind of the first test, recently. The Buffalo, you feel like the Patriots, I'm not going to say it wasn't a test. They caught them by surprise a little bit. Buffalo played a pretty bad game. I'm not going to diminish their efforts there. That was the win of the season, and it probably will be just based off the schedule. But then you kind of get into well, of course, they're going to beat this team and the Carolinas and blah, 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 and this and that. And so they're beating up on the worst teams in football, and there's many more games coming up with some of these horrible teams, so it's really going to be difficult to get a sense of who the Patriots are. This little stretch is as close as you're going to get to a murderer's row of games in terms of opponents. You have the Browns, who their defense is at least solid. The Falcons, who might have played their worst game ever today. Offensively, they looked like they were a mess, but they were without Penix there. But defensively, they're as good, if not even better, potentially, than the Browns, and that could pose some challenges. And then Tampa, which could be closer to full health by the time you get down there to play them. Nice little run here to kind of see where we're at, because I do think people's mindset was, based on the schedule, they should be okay, and they're going to the playoffs here. But you're going to start to get a sense of like, wait, are they good? Depending on how they play. And this was the first test to me. This game could have been a loss. This game could have been an ugly slog fest of a game where they sneak it out, but the offense looks like shit, and you feel kind of bad after. Like, that wasn't great. That's not going to be sustainable here if that's how they look when they play a real defense. But it wasn't. So this is a big check mark for me here. How do you kind of feel about them after a win like this and then heading into the next couple of games?
This one specifically, I think it just is the latest example of how I keep using the word resilient, but that really is what stands out to me, because we've seen them play some of their best football when things get tough in the game and when their backs are against the wall. Obviously, they could not get out of their own way offensively in that first half for a lot of it, but then you finally saw, all right, when they are operating the way they're capable of, this is a very good Browns defense, and they exploded for 21 points in one quarter. So, of course, you can say, they are beating up on bad teams. But that's another thing. This wasn't a team that was always beating up on bad teams. This was a team last year that was consistently losing to bad teams, or you're constantly finding ways to lose. Now, it's not even like keeping it close. It's no, you are like pounding guys into submission to the point where we're sitting I looked up at the third quarter. I was like, oh my God, there's another quarter of football left. Like, it got boring at one point, which is a very nice type of boring relative to what we've seen in recent years. So I think that's the biggest thing that stands out to me is, yes, they're going to play some tougher opponents down the road, but like we did see it in Buffalo, where that's a very tough environment, difficult circumstances, and they were still able to play a pretty good game, even in that one when they weren't playing perfectly. So, you got to play who's in front of you, but I do think that what we're seeing, given that slate of opponents, is that you're dominating when you should be, and when things aren't necessarily going your way, you still are able to lock in and rebound, and that's one of the biggest things in this league.
This definitely was a test, and they they definitely passed it, as we know, with them coming out with a 32-13 win. But you talk about after the Buffalo game, the next one was the Saints. Is this a letdown spot? And that turns into a test. And then last week against Tennessee, there's all the hype, there's the drama, there's the number one pick aspect with Cam Ward, obviously Vrabel going back and whatever. That kind of turned itself into another test, and they started slow in that one and bounced back really fast and ended up coming out with a blowout win. And then this week as well, where 7-6 at the end of the first half, it's like, or 9-6, whatever it was, they get the field goal at the end of the half, and it's kind of what this game felt like it could be, where they should win it, but Cleveland's sneaky pretty good, at least on the defensive side of the ball. Still a young team in the Patriots, a young offense trying to sort of start to gel, I guess, but we know at this point they've gelled to this point. And then all of a sudden they just flip the switch, like you said, in the third quarter. It's like, oh no, this isn't going to be that slog of a game that you mentioned, John, where it's a 9-6 win, or like I said pregame, 20-7 or whatever, where maybe they get one in the end of the second half and kind of turn it into a bigger blowout. But this was going to be a close game. It wasn't. They just turned it on and they were able to kind of fight their way through it. So this next couple weeks, where Atlanta, to me, feels like a game that they should win at this point, the way they're playing, sitting at 6-2, and the way Atlanta's been so hot and cold. The Patriots haven't been hot and cold. They've been consistent down the middle, so they should win that game. The next test is obviously Tampa Bay on the road. You go in there, Baker Mayfield, Drake May, two MVP candidates going up against each other. That one should be exciting. That's one where it feels like that's going to be the next sort of litmus test barometer to see, like, okay, is this a playoff team? Is this a second round in the playoffs team? Or is this they're going to not fall their way back, but end up in the conference championship game, kind of like the Commanders did last year.
Yeah, I mean,
those Commanders, honestly, like that was a hot and cold team where they were losing game, or they were winning games in pretty lucky fashion. Like you had the Hail Marys. There were a lot of very close ones. And obviously, the Patriots have a long way to go, but like this doesn't feel like that Commanders team where they're completely being carried by their quarterback. At some point, people figure out the offense, and it's like, all right, Terry, Jaden, please do something incredible because we can't stop a nosebleed, or we can't really get anything going with our more conventional offense. Like, yes, Drake is doing his thing, absolutely. Run game is starting to pick it up. You're getting explosives. I was saying before this game, I didn't know how they were going to run the ball on the Browns because the Browns created a lot of negative plays. They did do that today, but you also did see Treveyon getting some good run in there. Ramondre actually thought ran well. You started to see fewer holes for him, but there were a couple second efforts where he kind of runs into a wall and then manages to get even more out of it when he probably shouldn't have. And of course, the defense has been freaking lights out. And Zach Core mentioned, it's going to take time before we get to gel and feel more chemistry. And like today, it felt like the cornerbacks were sleepwalking through a lot of the game. Like Gonzo, you had him talking smack to Jerry Jeudy on what was the wildest decision on a 2-point conversion attempt, or whatever was the fourth down touchdown try that I've maybe ever seen, to throw vertically on Christian Gonzalez when his whole thing, as he doesn't give up, throws downfield or on vertical plays. So, I mean, just to say, like that Commanders team before the season, I was comparing it to them, like the Texans from a couple years ago. This doesn't feel like that. This feels like a very different and legitimately not only talented, but tough team that could go pretty far. But again, still a long way to go, but that's where they're at right now.
Yeah. And again, I feel the same in terms of, it's great. I mean, it's fun to wake up on Sundays and like, I can't wait to watch Drake May play football. The Patriots play football. So it's a totally different vibe. And so you want to keep that going. But again, I do feel it's almost like you're waiting to turn back into a pumpkin and realize, well, it's still a mid team and a soft schedule. And that's what they're benefiting from. The Drake May stuff is real. It continues to be real. You mentioned Baker Mayfield. May has officially passed him in MVP odds, now is third overall, which is bananas. That it's here because that felt
Sam Darnold and
Mahomes is probably one, and then
Mahomes and Allen. Still
Goff?
Mahomes and Allen.
Oh, Allen's up there still.
Interesting.
Yeah, are you guys okay with that?
I thought it was gonna be Darnold or something like that. I was kind of.
I was gonna go Jared Goff, but Josh Allen did put up 40 points on the Panthers today. So.
Anyway, so but regardless, it does feel like so much of the Drake May conversation began as like, a little bit of homery, New England stuff. Is he top 10? Is he top? Now we're well past that point. We are now having legitimate conversations about, how good is he and how far can he take you here? And that's going to be the great separator the rest of the way, because while the team is better in places than maybe we gave them credit for, their overall receiving core is at least good enough. You've got a couple of tight ends, while they're not game breakers, that they're reliable safety valve targets that you can go to. Offensive line has blocked it up well enough. They're going to struggle against a team like this for sure. And again, you've got some problems on the edge, and you could use a little bit of help at linebacker, but otherwise, you're stuffing the run. Your D-backs are playing lockdown right now since Christian Gonzalez returned. There's a lot of good things here on a pretty mediocre. Go ahead, Taylor thought of something.
I wanted to shout out that Jalen Hawkins interception.
Oh,
Dude,
that
was
amazing,
nuts.
huh?
When we saw it live, I'm looking, I was like, he's not going to pick that off. Like, it was a bad decision, clearly.
What a play.
But it just didn't look like a situation where, like, Hawkins, who we don't really know as necessarily. Actually, I can't even say that because I've been telling him for weeks, like, dude, you are so close to a turnover. He had, like, the interception that got overturned earlier in the season, some fumbles where he was, like, this close to getting a recovery. That play, so first of all, him being able to spin like that baseball turn where he's tracking it over one shoulder, then has to go the other way, that's hard for wide receivers to do. And then to actually make that catch was insane. And it feels like, again, he's been close to getting those kinds of turnovers, but in this system and with this coaching staff, Jalen Hawkins has really taken a step in his development after being somebody last year who wasn't great. It was kind of like he was fine or he was giving up big plays at times. And I thought that he was going to.
We didn't know his fit.
Yeah.
We talked about it when Vrabel came. We were kind of going through the roster in the offseason. Like, does Jalen Hawkins fit here? Obviously, you had Peppers in the room at that point, but it kind of felt like he was the third to even fourth safety option at one point, kind of figuring out where all these guys fit in. And he's been great. He really has. He missed the last couple weeks, was able to come in and make that, again, highlight reel-worthy play where, did he catch it with one hand? Was it one? At one point, it looked like he grabbed it with one hand and maybe brought in the second one, but yeah, that was filthy.
Even Craig Woodson was had a pick. He was this close. Njoku score at the end of the game. Woodson saw it coming and tried to close, but like I think he missed it by a fingertip. So impressive play from the safeties. Craig Woodson also has put a couple of good weeks of football together.
Yeah, and on just the Drake Maye front to maybe close that out if we want to. I feel like we and you mentioned this team kind of they're going to end up turning into a pumpkin. Or they're going to regress to the mean and be this mid-tier to lower tier, frankly, roster that we thought they were going to be. For Drake Maye to come out and have the 3 touchdown, 200-something yards, and 50 rushing yards game against this Cleveland defense, which is one of the best, that tells me that those pumpkin-type games, the duds that he might put up, are going to be few and far between at this point throughout his career. I mean, the fact that he was able to answer the bell here, and maybe it is, I don't want to say just a hot streak, but maybe it is just a hot streak right now, and maybe he finds his level at some point and still starts playing pretty good football. But at this point, there's no reason to believe that they won't be in games, and it's because of the quarterback.
Also, while I was talking, while I brought up Jalen Hawkins, I feel like I also need to bring up another defensive back.
Yeah.
Marcus Jones, could he maybe make the Pro Bowl? That might sound crazy. And somebody asked me a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I don't think we're there yet. It was after the Saints game. But this is now like 3 weeks in a row where he is really locking dudes down, making plays on the ball, tight ball. Whoa, I just watched Task. So I've been talking like I'm from like rural Pennsylvania for some reason the past few days. But Marcus Jones is playing some outstanding football. If it weren't for the 2 touchdowns he's allowed this season, I wouldn't really have a doubt in my mind that he's playing at a Pro Bowl level. But, I mean, he's made it before as an All-Pro for punt return, but this year, man, he is on a different level. So shout out to him as well.
I would like to implement a rule change here. For all I know, they've already changed this, and I just don't know. But there really needs to be a position for slot receiver and slot corner in the Pro Bowl, because you're always going to get the outside guys because there's so many good ones. But if you're truly valuing that position as its own thing and what it takes to play that and what type of player it takes to play that and how important it is to modern day football, both sides of the ball, I do think that you need to have that type of position there. And then a guy like Marcus Jones could get in. Otherwise, it's really difficult to battle all of those elite, shut down, boundary, sort of guys there that can lock down, your ex receiver on the other side. But Marcus Jones has been amazing. And Carlton Davis has kept healthy. And again, it's really locked it down. So you feel really pretty good about that secondary here. Again, if you've got a secondary and you can stuff the run, you can do a lot of things. You'd love to get a little bit more pass rush help. And you do understand why reports surfaced this week that the Patriots are more interested in defense than offense, because as we said, we're greedy. Everybody wants shiny new toys. And I want me that receiver, but I don't want it just for this year. I want as has been discussed, the guy who you can get and then have for a couple of years. You're not just building for the now, but for the future, because you got to find ways to get these guys, and they take massive draft capital or crap ton of money in free agency. So if you can get one in trade that's going to be yours, I'm for it. But I understand the immediate need here probably is on that defensive side here, both with the pass rush and a little bit on the linebacker side of things. Other nuggets from today's game you guys want to hit on before we wrap things up? And again, you got to
score. Oh, sorry.
No, you gotta tip your hat in general to the defense. One of my favorite things in post game today from Mike Vrabel was that teeny little dig. I don't know what made him say it about the Browns. Once they got past their little
gimmicky
plays,
plays. That was crazy.
I love that.
I heard that walking down the hallway. I wasn't inside yet. I was like, was that Vrabel?
Yeah.
I was like, that was a little
usually
bit.
he
I
just
love
calls them
that.
scripted or openers or something. I
Yeah.
was like, gimmick. Oh,
Yeah.
whoa, okay. I mean, they kind
Yeah.
of were though, because you had
Right.
like an end around. Oh, you had the jet sweep.
Yep.
You had the Fannin coming out of the backfield. So
Yeah,
I
they
see why I
lost
said that.
Fannin
Even
there
one of
coming
those
out
got
of the
stuffed.
backfield.
It was the shovel pass from Gabriel where he kind of
Right.
looked and stopped for a second and then gave it up, and then they obviously stuffed that one. But there was a lot of those.
Also, Caleb on Chason, another guy who every week is showing up. That double pass that the Browns tried,
Oh, yeah.
he's a big reason that didn't end up being a worse play than it was. So, also another nugget, I already said it, so I want to finish. That Brendan Schooler face mask penalty was so stupid.
that was crazy.
He got face mask and somehow got called for it. Like, he was a little high, so maybe. But the fact that he got his face mask pulled and he was flagged for it was one of this officiating this year has been rough, man. Thank God that was like the only egregiously bad penalty, but that still is stuck in my crawly. That was really silly.
Yeah. Other nuggets here before we kick it. I liked Vrabel and Steph doing the little thing after his
that was
touchdown. That was pretty good.
Robert Spillane has
Yeah,
played
he's
very
played
well,
very
man.
well.
Flying
Opportunistic,
around.
opportunistic, a couple interceptions
Yeah.
this year, but even still being in the right place at the right time, knowing what to do. He explained it after the game. He just obviously he was so fired up too after the game. You notice he was like talking about the guys in front, like everybody doing their job and the secondaries in the right spot. He basically wanted to just be like, right to the camera.
Gave Corey Durden the shout out, which
Yeah.
I appreciated.
Yeah.
Because honestly, low key, Corey Durden has been a good pickup for them.
Yeah.
It's just it's mostly run defense. You don't hear about him very much, but like he's been a solid player for them. When he got a shout out, I was like, oh damn, that's how you know they played really well. All the defensive tackles getting some love. But yeah, man, Spillane and all the linebackers, period, man. They've been playing some good football. Maybe they don't, they're not the guy making the tackle when they first get there all the time, but this entire unit swarms so well.
Yeah.
It feels like they probably allowed the fewest yards after catch or contact that they have all season, because it felt like they knew Dylan Gabriel was throwing short, and every time they got a check down throw, there was somebody on a receiver's back instantly. That was something that Mike Vrabel said in the press conference. I was asking him about when they aren't able to get a pass rush, like what are you kind of relying on? And he says, well, we can't let check downs turn into 8-yard gains, which is what happened maybe last week. They were not giving up much after the catch, so really a big credit to them for their swarming and tackling.
Yeah, and Spillane is a guy we beat up on a little bit at the beginning of the year. He's missing a ton of tackles. He's been on lockdown. And talking about his attitude, and again, things you like to see, and this stuff doesn't matter, when you're losing. But when you see them winning and playing the way that they're playing, how hyped Spillane was and how jacked up freaking Stephon Diggs was over catching a 2-yard touchdown pass, and then flipping out, running down the side, doing the celly, running down the sideline, jumping on Drake May's back. Don't do that to Drake when he's not looking, by the way. And
right.
Drake should have did him like Aaron Rodgers. Get off me.
Get off me, man. That's what I wanted. I was like, come on, man. I'm Drake May. And then he's on the sideline and he's grinning, and Vrabel goes up to him. Like, that stuff is great. Like, that stuff matters, What's that?
John, you got to do it.
Selly.
John, do it with us. Come on.
What's that? Oh, this thing? Yeah. I love it. Oh, wait. Did I freeze? Did I freeze or did you freeze? I was trying to do it, and then all of a sudden, Mike's hand was stuck here for like 30 seconds.
3, 2, 1. Come on, John. We need you.
do it.
Yeah, there we go.
Did it. I think we all froze trying to do it at once, so I was afraid to try it again. Here.
Too much swagger. We froze the camera.
There's too much swag. This is the last game we're going to do. I want to tell you guys where Taylor Kyles isn't miserable because of the weather. I can tell you that. As soon as it drops below 45, it's earmuffs. The earmuffs are coming out soon, but in the meantime, Taylor's got he's freshly shorn. He looks good. That's the last time you're going to see Taylor Kyles looking like this, so enjoy it. Patriots, as we said, they win this one 32-13 with a terrific third quarter, getting the job done against an inferior opponent, which is what they're supposed to do. And again, so much has changed. A lot of these 50-50 games are now, they should beat this team sort of games. And you're looking at Atlanta next week as another one that kind of might fall into that situation as well. So we'll check it out. We want to tell you guys before we wrap up, subscribe to the Patriots Daily Podcast, Patriots Post Game Show, what have you, everything on Patriots Press Pass. easiest thing to do is subscribe to our Patriots Press Pass YouTube channel and check it out on Apple and Spotify as well. If you want to listen to the audio version of this, that's where you can do that. You'll also have coming on later on, the Pats Chat guys are jumping on at 8:00 with their version of a Patriots postgame show or their Patriots postgame pod. So you can check that out as well. We also want to give a quick shout out once again to our sponsors. Prize Picks, #1 daily fantasy sports app in all of North America. Code CLNS, get 50 in your lineups. Download the app. Use code CLNS 50 in your lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. And we also want to tell you again, Omaha Steaks. Go to omahasteaks.com. 50% site-wide sale and $35 off your order as well. Terms do apply. Patriots win 32-13. Atlanta next week. We're psyched about that. Make sure you follow Taylor Kyles and all of his film reviews on Twitter.
No. You can't. That's a bad word. That's a no-no word.
Sorry. I couldn't help it. Taylor Kyles and all of his drawings that he's going to have to do here. Yeah, to do all of that stuff. Mike Kadlick, of course, check out all of his stuff over at si.com. And you don't need to follow me for any reason at all, but these guys definitely do. So thank you guys for hanging out. We will see you next week.